Welcome. Our first slide introduces the current state of public sector accounting in Malaysia, which is designed to promote transparency and accountability. Unfortunately, despite established rules, financial mismanagement remains a systematic and recurring crisis. To give you an idea of the scale, the Auditor General's LKAN 1st 2026 report found 273 new financial governance problems during recent audits. We are constantly seeing improper procurement practices and unauthorized revenue collection that is essentially creating a black economy within a public institution. A prime example of this is highlighted in the Auditor General's Report 2nd 2025, which discovered RM 58.45 million in tender irregularities at Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, perfectly demonstrating how failing to adhere to internal controls result in the devastating wastage of taxpayers' money. Now we're moving to our second slide. We will overview how public sector financial management is actually supposed to function. The entire system is centered on deploying taxpayer resources efficiently to achieve adequate value for money. This means every expenditure must be justified and deliver optimal, high-quality result without wastage or delay. To safeguard these funds, organizations are required to use strong internal controls, specifically routing project evaluations through the technical, financial, and pre-tender committees. Furthermore, external oversight is mandatory. The rules of tender dictate that representatives from the Ministry of Finance and relevant oversight ministries must be present at tender sessions. When these structural mechanisms are breached, it opens the door to the abuse of power and non-compliance. Therefore, regular audits by the Auditor General are an integral and necessary part of the system to detect weaknesses and ensure accountability is maintained.
Next, I will discuss the common audit issue in Malaysia based on the Auditor General report for 2035 until 2036. The first issue is procurement non-compliance. This happens when contracts are awarded to companies that do not meet the required technical or financial qualifications. In some cases, the procurement process lacks transparency, especially through the use of pre-qualification methods. The report also found that certain government agencies purchased expensive high-tech equipment that could not integrate with existing systems. As a result, public funds were wasted and projects became inefficient. The second issue is weak revenue and expenditure governance. Particularly in statutory bodies and public universities, the audit revealed cases of unauthorized revenue collection by cooperatives or subsidiaries without approval from the board or the Ministry of Finance. This creates what is referred to as a black economy within public institutions and may cause financial statements to be understated. There were also irregular expenditure such as payment to unauthorized requirements agents and misuse of university credit cards by officers who were not eligible. The third issue is with subsidiary management. According to the report, 34 out of 42 subsidiaries audited recorded losses for 3 consecutive years, with total losses amounting to 460.57 million in 2024 alone. Some subsidiaries were operating outside their original objectives, while others required repeated financial support from the governments. Lastly, the report highlighted structural weaknesses such as contract splitting to avoid procurement regulations, as well as with internal control and oversight. Overall, these issues show that governance and accountability weaknesses continue to affect financial management and public trust in Malaysia.
Now, I will present the causes of weaknesses in UKM procurement governance. The first one was the breakdown in tender evaluation integrity. At Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, the procurement committees selected companies that were already rejected by technical and financial evaluation committees. This means expert recommendations were ignored and there was no transparent explanation for those decisions. Next, another cause was weak external oversight. Based on the Auditor's General finding, UKM did not appoint a representative from the Ministry of Finance for 3 important tender meetings. Although a representative from the Ministry of Higher Education was appointed, they did not attend. Because of this, there was no external monitoring, which weakened the accountability. Next, the third cause was non-compliance with regulation. The committee ignored Treasury circulars and procurement guidelines by awarding contracts to companies that failed evaluation or had poor performance record. In some cases, technical specification will also not follow, such as selecting equipment that could not match with UKM's existing systems.
Now, I will present a real Malaysian public sector accounting issue involving Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia or UKM as reported in the Auditor's General Report. The case involved procurement contracts worth 58.45 million, where the Auditor General found that UKM Tenders Procurement Committee selected companies that were not recommended by the Technical Evaluation Committee and Financial Evaluation Committee. This raised serious concern regarding transparency, accountability and compliance with the public sector procurement procedure. Several major issues were identified in this case. First, UKM showed weak internal control and oversight because representatives from the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Higher Education were absent from important tender meetings. This reduced external monitoring and increased the risk of irregularities. There were also several problematic procurement decisions. For example, a medical equipment contract was awarded to a company whose products were not compatible to UKM existing system. Another company that failed technical evaluation for catering services was still considered, which violated the Treasury regulation. In addition, a company with problematic ongoing project was awarded a lift upgrade contract. So this situation showed non-compliance with procurement rules and risk inefficient use of public funds. The UKM tender irregularities negatively affected public trust because UKM is funded partly by the taxpayer. So poor procurement decision may lead to financial losses, project delay and failure to achieve value for money. So this case also highlights several important weaknesses that will be explained further by the next presenter. That's all from me.
For my part, I'll be explaining the impact on public sector accounting. One of it is weakness in government financial management can greatly reduce accountability and transparency in public institutions. When procurement procedures, treasury regulations, and internal controls are not properly followed, financial decisions become less transparent and more difficult to justify. As a result, the reliability and credibility of a public sector financial reports may also be affected. Besides that, weak financial management can lead to inefficient use of public funds. For example, contract may be awarded to companies that do not meet the requirement technically or financial standard. This can cause project delays, poor quality services, operational problems, and additional maintenance or replacement. In the long term, this creates wastage of taxpayer money and reduces the value for money principle in public sector spending. In addition, these weaknesses increases the risk of inaccurate financial reporting, unsupported expenditure, and non-compliance with accounting standard and treasury regulations. This may lead to repeated auditing findings by the Auditor General, showing that the organization still has weak governance and monitoring systems. Furthermore, cases such as UKM tender irregularities can negatively affect the public trust and confidence in the government institutions. When public sees issues involving misuse of funds or weak accountability, it may damage the reputation of public agency and reduce confidence in the government's ability to manage public resources effectively. Therefore, strong governance, effective internal controls, proper monitoring, and strict compliance with financial regulations are very important to improve accountability and ensure better public sector financial management in Malaysia.
There are several ways to improve financial management in the public sector to reduce procurement irregularities such as the UKM case. First, public institutions should strengthen the internal control and ensure procurement process follow financial regulation. Tender communities must carefully review recommendations before approving tenders. Second, monitoring and supervision should be improved to ensure transparency and accountability in procurement decisions. Continuous training should also be provided to public officers to improve understanding of governance, ethics and financial compliance. In addition, stricter disciplinary action should be taken against officers who violate regulation, while audit weaknesses must be addressed quickly. Lastly, the government should expand digital procurement system to improve transparency, reduce manipulation, and increase public trust. This effort can strengthen accountability, governance, and effective financial management in the public sector. In conclusion, weak financial management remains a major challenge in Malaysia's public sector. Issues such as weak internal controls, non-compliance with procurement procedures, and lack of accountability may lead to misuse of public funds and reduce public trust. As shown in the UKM tenders irregularities case. Therefore, stronger internal controls, proper monitoring, and strict compliance with financial irregulation are important to ensure transparency, accountability, and better management of public resources for national development. In addition, cooperation among government agencies is important to strengthen supervision and prevent financial irregularities. Effective financial management can also improve public confidence and ensure better use of public funds.